Confetti Covered Quicksand, Chapter 13, The Decision. I somehow caught on that Bertie had been seriously shooting heroin. Wait a minute, I'm not sure what the difference is between shooting heroin and seriously shooting heroin. I guess it's pretty serious either way. I knew she did it on New Year's Eve, and I also noticed that when she slept at my place after partying with Poppy that she couldn't wake up. Not even to go to the beach or to eat, two things she loved. I would try to wake her, but she was always in a deep, thick, junky sleep. Eyes crusted shut, mouth open, and drooling, even with the sun hitting her in the eyes. But the thing that made me realize she wasn't just dabbling with this drug was when I found her kit. It was a little tin box with a broken spoon, rubber bands, Band-Aids, and a little travel-size shampoo bottle. I opened up the little bottle and I smelled bleach. I knew it was to clean her needles. I was sure there was a syringe in my trash can, but I didn't want to look. I was saddened but not terribly surprised because she had always tried any drug put in front of her. I was with her the very first night she tried heroin in Hollywood. I had hoped she wouldn't become addicted to it, that it was a one-time thing that she wanted to try. But I had heard the stories. You didn't do heroin once. In all her beauty, my friend had become a secret heroin addict. I wasn't sure what to do. Telling her parents was out. I had tried that years earlier, and look where she ended up. Worse. Threatening her and calling her a huge loser didn't work either. I had tried that back in Hollywood. There were parts of her personality that made me feel it was impossible to change her mind. First of all, she had no limit to the number of drugs she would take. Second, she had no fear of being in danger. She would pop a ton of pills and drink until she fell over backwards in a tiny schoolgirl skirt. She was carried out of nightclubs, unconscious. She would get into any car, hang out with any stranger, and wake up wherever she ended up. She once called me at work and whispered that she didn't know what city she was in or where her purse was. She woke up in ambulances after overdosing. Sometimes she ended up in the emergency room getting her stomach pumped. She was in a remarkably bad place. She was eventually blackballed from hanging out with my other friends for one reason or another. Missy and Liesel were sick of babysitting her and making sure she didn't pass out or do something stupid. They were over it. I was avoiding going out with her myself, simply because it was too dangerous. I tried setting up things to do in the daytime instead of at night. One day I got her to go to the beach like we used to, but she was suddenly uncomfortable being outside. When we got back to my apartment that evening, she stopped her car in my driveway and told me she had something to tell me. She took a deep breath and turned off the car. I thought she was finally going to fess up to her heroin use. I braced myself, staring at her profile while she looked straight ahead. She finally looked over at me and told me she had nothing to live for, and she didn't want to be alive anymore. She said, "All I have is my face." I knit my brows together. I thought back to our Hollywood days when she had deep, thick, bloody vertical scabs on her wrists from a previous suicide attempt. I remember thinking she must have been truly trying to die because everybody knows the vertical slices are the way to actually kill yourself, not the horizontal ones, which were for attention whores. Then I thought about a night out with Missy, where Bertie got so drunk she started confessing that she wanted to kill herself. I felt incredibly disturbed. I realized this was not some attention-grabbing thing she was pulling. This girl was planning on killing herself. I was stunned at her reasoning as well. I was always under the impression that she was completely aware she was using her looks to get her places. It was always kind of a joke between us, the thing on which we bonded. We always talked about how great we were because people fell all over themselves to be in our company. I was actually shocked to find out that it bothered her in actuality. I understood that it was a little depressing at times. I mean, sure. I thought about what it would be like for me if I were unattractive. Would people be so willing to help me find places to live? Pay for me to do so many things? Would I make as many tips? Would I have as many friends? I knew the answer was no. But deep, deep inside, I knew I could be funny and entertaining and witty. Bertie didn't see anything else she had. She was still a beautiful little child inside, still a baby. She was a kid who had had ugly things happen to her at the hands of adults and who never saw justice. She was a kid who needed help. I looked into her pupils and I saw anguish. I saw someone desperate, someone reckless. She didn't see anything else for herself. She saw nothing left to live for. She said if anything happened to her face, she would have nothing, and she honestly believed that. My mind started to scramble because I realized I had a chance to talk this girl out of dying. The pressure of that made me turn into a total babbling fool. I told her she just needed to switch things up, stop sleeping all day and leaving the house only at night. I told her she was just getting depressed with the hours she kept, and that the only people who were awake at those 4 a.m. after-hours clubs were shady people. I told her to get more sun in her life, be more active. I told her to try and hang around more normal of a crowd. She shook her head. Nope, nope, nope. She didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. I knew it was nearly impossible for her to suddenly join a crowd of kids her own age after all that she had been through. I was not having an easy time of it myself, and I was one of the best actresses I knew. She would not have the patience to sit around with boring suburban kids and pretend to be interested in their lives. She would not be able to undo everything she had done to herself, everything she had seen, everything that had affected her. I looked at her crying, and I knew I couldn't save her. I wasn't going to risk my own safety and sanity to try and save her from herself. Bertie and I had been into too many bad situations, car accidents, near rapes, too much alcohol, drug consumption. I never knew what the hell would happen if I hung out with her. I did not feel safe with her. I had made a decision to get out of the Hollywood scene. I didn't want to try heroin when everybody else tried it. I wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, no. But I knew I did not want to go backwards. I had to go on my own path. It was sad, but I couldn't turn back and try to drag someone with me who wouldn't do the work to get out. I felt sick for her. I deeply hoped she would snap out of her current state of mind, but I knew it was time for me to get away from her. I would only go down with her. I tried just staying around Charlie, but that proved to be a disaster too. She had become so controlling that it was exhausting me. I couldn't say no to her. I knew I was in debt to her because I had borrowed so many of her clothes and let her drive me around at least twice a week, if not 3 or 4 times a week, for the past year. I knew I had not chipped in $1 for gas or for any late-night Jerry's Deli dinners. I knew I had mooched off her to no end. I had borrowed her perfumes, razors, conditioners. I had eaten her food. I allowed her to cover me if any fee popped up anywhere. All of that mooching cost me my freedom. My head was spinning. I tried spending more time with my coworker, Allison. She lived with her parents in a beautiful house with little poodles tapping around inside. There were hundreds of blooming roses, dripping blossoms, and twisting vines around the grounds, which included a gazebo under an apple tree and a huge aqua blue pool in which we laid on rafts and drank Boone's Farm. Allison was my age and had grown up very similar to me in my younger years. Teen years were a different story, of course. She was from the valley and knew many of the kids from my former neighborhood and the schools I had attended. She had been to Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor and Malibu Grand Prix and Devonshire Downs. She rode her bike and ate 10-cent now and laters after school just as I had, and it was very comforting to be around her. She wasn't into elaborate makeup or dressing up, and was amused at my dedication to both things. She was very smart and into more tomboyish things than I was, which I found very different and entertaining. She wanted to do tequila shots and eat crawfish in New Orleans. She went hiking, she was into photography, and was an avid reader of books. I sometimes had to consult a frickin' dictionary after talking to her because her vocabulary was so advanced. I finally just started saying, "What does that mean?" right in the middle of when she was talking, and she would laugh. I had fun with her, learning about different ways of living life. I remember the first night I took Allison out with my Hollywood girlfriends. She was waiting for me downstairs from my apartment. I was trying to make it down the stairs in heels, and I slipped and I ate shit down the last 5 stairs at the bottom. A few of my baby blue acrylic nails popped off while I was desperately trying to grab the railing. That was before we even got into the car. Then I had her drive me to the strip club to pick up Missy and Liesel so we could all go to the room on Sunset. We walked into the club to see Carmela on the stage, as beautiful and as golden as ever. I never saw my dancer friends or acquaintances actually performing at their jobs, so I didn't know the etiquette. I went up to the stage and tried to throw money at her, and she looked pissed, but she hugged me topless while her audience was watching. We all went out afterwards and danced and laughed and drank until the early hours of the morning. Cash was flying everywhere because the girls had just gotten off work. We were all exceedingly wild as the night went on. Missy kicked off her shoes in the street afterward, and Liesel and I went searching for them a good 20 minutes. She always made it a point to kick off her damn shoes, even a brand new pair. It didn't matter. As soon as the night ended, the shoes came a-flying, and we went a-searching. The next day, I found a business card in my purse for some big sports agent, and I had to call Allison to ask her if he was cute. She said he wasn't. Because we were so different, Allison and I started trading off weekends. When it was her weekend, she made me drink 40 ounces and hang out at the Winnetka 6 Drive-In movie theater with some gangsters, or go to big house parties where huge fights broke out. When it was my turn, I glued eyelashes on her and put her in a dress and heels and brought her to the hipster places like the Chateau Marmont and ordered her martinis and got someone else to pay for them. They had little plastic monkeys from the Barrel of Monkeys game hanging off the side, and she was fascinated at how I got into clubs. I would say, "Just wait right here." And she would say, "Here? We're like in the dark corner of a parking lot." But within minutes, a doorman would be squinting over seas of people and motioning us to come to the door. He would push people out of the way and let us cut in front of the lines. Instead of acting all cool about it, she made me feel good by being visibly impressed. We were trying to steal bread from the kitchen at the Chateau Marmont one night when we met some lawyer who brought us over some drinks. We went back to his little table, and he was with the light-eyed guy from Milli Vanilli. We got shit-faced together and had a grand old time, and it wasn't until later that we found out that Vanilli had pleaded no contest to 3 sexual assault charges a few months prior and had just fled his court-appointed rehab. There was a $60,000 warrant out on his ass, which was recalled a few days later, after the lawyer who brought us 50 million drinks told the judge that Vanilli left the rehab only to check into another rehab. After he had all those drinks. Anyway, I think that guy's no longer with us, by the way, you guys, once again. All right, Allison loved dancing to ABBA. Some people call it ABBA, but most folks know it's ABBA. And one night as we were spinning around the dance floor, I threw my drink into the air behind me. The glass shattered on the dance floor, spraying into a group of gangster girls with sharply drawn eyebrows and crunchy hair. I was totally oblivious and not paying attention, but Allison was. She had to calm down a group of tough-ass bitches who were pulling their hair back into ponytails and getting ready to whoop my motherfucking ass. Another time that comes to mind is one day when we went through a McDonald's drive-thru and pulled over to eat the food. We watched a house catch on fire while eating our burgers. There were cars driving by, and it was in the middle of the day in a busy area, but nobody seemed to notice. We thought, wait, this can't be real. Somebody would have called the fire station. Why is no one doing anything? This has got to be fake. I honestly don't remember what we were thinking. We may have been stoned. Nevertheless, this house caught on fire, and then a huge tree went up in flames, and we sat there watching as if it were for our personal entertainment. I was dipping my McNuggets like a champ, and I was feeling like I was at the Griffith Park Lazarium, watching a cool show. Allison invited me to the beach one day. Her friend Angie came with us. They brought tons of beach toys, a CD player blasting the Mambo Kings, and beach balls to throw. They had on shorts and tank tops and brought food. They were having a great time digging with shovels and making sandcastles. I was in a metallic silver G-string bikini trying to tan my ass. I watched them laughing and playing and just being real and true and organic. It was very strange to me, but it was beautiful. I forgot it existed. I didn't think it was possible to live like that. I hadn't thought to do that stuff in years. Fun had stopped being part of the equation for me long before that. I only went to the beach to tan in the skimpiest bikinis possible. It was strictly for vanity. Getting wasted was my only fun. I longed to laugh like that, play like that. I longed to not care what people thought. It was like there was a very small bud trying to break through the dirt to bloom. Allison was a very important part of my life for that reason. She showed me what life could be like. As I went walking up in the hills that summer, I thought of something I had never thought of before. I dreamed of living in a small town, of scrubbing off my makeup and settling down and just being in love, having a family of my own. Of course, I was terrified of even having a boyfriend, so I knew it would be something that would be hard for me. To be vulnerable, I secretly was just scared to death of men, and I usually avoided ever really knowing one or letting one know me. I thought if somebody honestly knew me, there was no way they could like me, let alone love me. I came home from work one day that summer to find that my front door was open. Nothing looked as if it were missing but a box of mine that contained my bank deposit coupons had been rifled through. I thought nothing of it because I had lived with so many people through the years, and there were always things out of place or people coming in and out. A month or so later, I was charged $200 by my bank for a bad check. Somebody had taken a deposit coupon of mine and wrote a fake check for $200 made out to me. They tried to deposit $100 of the dollars into my account and take out the rest in cash. The bank found out the check was bad and charged me for the entire $200. That was a lot of money for me. I was only making $150 a week at the time. The first person I tried to blame was Poppy. Then I blamed Amelia, whose belongings I had either smashed into a million pieces or thrown on the front lawn. I thought she was trying to get her money back for the broken items and the furniture. Then I realized she wouldn't have the balls to break in my house and forge my name on a check. She wasn't brave enough. I kept looking at the signature on the check, and I was convinced it was none other than Missy. I called her and promptly blamed her. She was appalled and totally insulted. She couldn't believe that I thought she would need a measly $200 that bad. She was very hurt by it. Missy and I were never friends again. I never knew who took that check, but now I realize it was most likely the person who was on drugs and who had balls, Bertie. She would have done anything. She had committed several robberies of stores with her ex-boyfriend and had no shame. Journal entry July 17, 1996. The last time I truly got jacked was when I was 7. I brought my little stash of Japanese goodness, Hello Kitty, into my second grade classroom and plopped down next to a girl named Tanya. Her hair was cut like a boy, and she wore the same tan, peach, beige calico dress every single day. She was dark, maybe American Indian or something, and she always looked very distressed. She didn't smile like the other children. She looked very troubled. At any rate, we had these cardboard pencil boxes with our names on them. They were for school pencils, a ruler, and one pink rubber eraser that smelled terrible. I thought it would be a grand idea to bring in shiny, bubblegum-smelling red and white Hello Kitty gingham-clad erasers with bows on them, baby pink My Melody bunny pencils with balloons and hearts on them, pastel blue little twin star sticker books with puffy clouds, rounded stars, and crescent moons. Tanya was salivating next to me, but I didn't think about it. I dumped the goods in and out of my dingy cardboard box over and over to look at them. She asked to see my bright pink jumbo pencil with a little tassel containing a teensy tiny baby set of pencils hanging from the top of the eraser. I don't even think it was Hello Kitty. I'm pretty sure I got the thing at Magic Mountain. I let her see it, and I quickly snatched it back. I went out to recess one day soon thereafter and returned to look at my stash of greatness. I noticed the cardboard box was not filled to the brim anymore. It was about halfway down. I panicked, and I told the teacher I had been robbed. She asked me what was stolen, and I was so flustered and upset I didn't even know. I just knew the box was half empty. I took the box to the office, clunked it down on the reception desk, and announced that someone had robbed me. Again, I was asked, okay, what's missing? I gave the genius answer, I don't know, but this box was up to here, and now it's only down to here. Well, that shit didn't fly with the jaded office ladies at the school in the valley. They sent me back to my class, probably thinking it served me right. It was not until I got home that I realized that the girl had stolen my big jumbo pencil. And she actually had the nerve to bring it to class about a month later and try to use it. I quickly told on her for stealing my shit, and she got in trouble. Big trouble. I just remember her eyes. They looked so sad. I probably looked like some lucky kid to her, one that had too much. And maybe I was lucky. Maybe I did have too much. At that point, I was just exhausted. Starting with the Amelia thing and snowballing throughout the summer, I finally had a nervous breakdown. I called my Aunt Billy, who lived in Colorado. Actually, I think I may have written her a letter because I remember opening up the response letter. I was sitting on my makeup-stained couch in my apartment with the wood-paneled walls and crying while I read it. I cried because my aunt and her family offered to let me move in with them in Colorado. I cried because I wanted to go, but I was scared to. If I continued going the way I was going, I was unsure of what would become of me. I felt myself sinking. I felt myself losing control. I was living too fast, drinking too much, and getting into too many dangerous situations. I lived in a state of oblivion most of the time, and so did girls around me. Everyone had their own problems they were trying not to face. The more I thought of just picking up and leaving town, the more I knew it was the only way to get out of the several ruts I was in. I didn't have many belongings. I had no career. I had no car. What was holding me back? I made the decision. I was moving to Colorado. I gave my 2-week notice at both of my jobs and packed up a box or two that my mother was nice enough to ship over there for me. My friends were sad and mostly insulted that I hadn't given them more notice. I did not tell my pow-pow friends until the day before I left. Jack was very offended and our friendship never recovered. The reason I didn't tell them right away was because I didn't want them to talk me out of it. They would have laughed at me for weeks, reminding me that there were no sparkles and glitter in Colorado. I was truly the least likely candidate for a resident of that state. Journal entry, July 27th, 1996. Today was average except for the fact that neither Jack nor Allison spoke to me. I didn't give a fuck because I'm leaving LA in 1 week. Maybe I will miss them, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll miss Zuma Beach and Ventura Boulevard and Ice Splendids at the Coffee Bean. Maybe I'll long for martinis at the Room or shots of Rumpelmans at the Century Club or to see the Boogie Nights perform on Sundays. Maybe I'll miss laying out by the pool at Charlie's and having sandwiches delivered in 95-degree weather smelling like suntan oil while she talks endlessly on the phone. Maybe I will miss lunches with my coworkers over at California Pizza Kitchen or light and healthy sushi, hot wind blowing our napkins into the blue sky. Maybe I'll miss being faded at the Golden China Inn singing karaoke. Maybe I'll miss Christmas shopping in the Sherman Oaks Fashion Square hustling for decent gifts. Maybe I will miss Halloween costume shopping in Hollywood at Playmates, dropping obscene amounts of cash. I might miss hearing the crickets at night while power walking up windy Valley Vista. I hitched a ride with my grandmother and her angry new husband, Reginald, to Colorado. I felt like I was going to throw up as we drove out of the valley. I had to shut my eyes. Was I doing the right thing? What the hell was I getting myself into? I didn't care. I just wanted to take action.